What if the most important moment of your entire day is not during your commute, not during your morning routine, and not even during the decisions you agonize over? What if the moment that shapes everything happens before you even open your eyes? There is a quiet space that lasts only 3 seconds, a fragile doorway between sleep and waking. And in that tiny window, you are not the story you carried yesterday. You are not the deadlines waiting for you. You are not the fear that drags behind you or the disappointment you have replayed for months. You are simply awareness, untouched and unburdened. For a brief breath, you exist without the labels the world keeps trying to press onto your skin. Welcome back to Stoic Power Lab, your daily dose of timeless Stoic wisdom. The ancient Stoics believed that this brief moment reveals the truest version of who you are. Before memory returns, before habit rises, before your mind starts reciting its familiar script, there is a still point inside you that has not yet been shaped by expectation or noise. It is the place Zeno discovered when everything he owned was taken from him. After losing his ship, his fortune, and the life he thought he needed, he said something that confused everyone around him. He said he had made a prosperous voyage when he suffered shipwreck. He was not trying to sound poetic. He meant that losing everything stripped away the illusions he had mistaken for himself. What remained was the part of him that could not be taken. Most people never notice that this same opportunity visits them every morning. The world rushes in so quickly that the truth inside those 3 seconds gets buried under routine and pressure. But if you learn how to use that moment, you can rebuild your entire inner world. You can meet the day with intention instead of reaction. You can step into a self that is chosen, not inherited from yesterday. In this video, we are going to take that fragile moment and expand it into an entire philosophy of living. We will walk through 7 Stoic laws designed to uncover your mind, your strength, and the freedom you forgot you had. Before we begin, take one slow breath. This is your entrance into the 3 seconds that define the rest of your day. Have you ever noticed how your mind never seems to stop talking? Even on the quietest days, even in a room where everything is still, there is a voice inside you commenting on every detail of your life. It tells you what you should have said earlier. It warns you about what might go wrong tomorrow. It judges the way you look, the way you speak, the way you move through the world. And because it sounds exactly like you assume it must be the truth. You assume it must be who you are. But the Stoics taught something very different. They believed you are not the voice. You are the one who hears it. You are the awareness behind the noise, the steady witness that existed long before the mind learned to narrate your life. When you forget this, you hand your piece to a storyteller that was never meant to be in control. Most of the thoughts that pass through your mind are not facts. They are guesses, memories, fears, and assumptions. They are fragments from the past or projections about the future. And when you accept them without question, they distort your reality. One anxious thought becomes a crisis. One insecure moment becomes a flaw you think everyone can see. One internal warning becomes a reason to shrink yourself. The Stoics warned that an untrained mind will torture the person who lives inside it. Think of your thoughts as weather. Some days are bright. Some days are heavy. Some days move fast and leave just as quickly. Nothing stays forever. The mind is like a radio that picks up different frequencies. When you feel anxious, it broadcasts danger. When you feel tired, it whispers hopelessness. When you feel alone, it tells stories about rejection or failure. But none of this is your identity. It is only a signal passing through. The Stoic practice is simple, but powerful. Instead of obeying the thought, observe it. When your mind says you are falling behind or that something terrible is about to happen, pause for a moment and silently say, "That is a thought, not a prophecy, not a command, just a thought." Then look around you. Feel your breath. Notice what is actually happening. In most moments, nothing is wrong. The storm exists only in the commentary. Each time you separate yourself from the voice, you strengthen your prohairesis, the Stoic ability to choose your response. You return to the calm awareness that is your true home. The thoughts keep coming, but they no longer own you. And in that space between the noise and your response, you rediscover a quiet freedom that does not depend on anything outside you. You are not the narrator. You are the sky. Let the weather pass. There is a strange habit many of us carry without even noticing. We hold on to our pain long after the moment has passed. Not because we enjoy it, but because it feels familiar. Pain becomes a kind of home, a place we understand even when it hurts. And when life finally gives us a moment of peace, we do not relax. We tense up. We wait for something to go wrong. We wonder if the calm is real or if it is just the quiet before another storm. Peace feels unsafe because we do not know how to live without our wounds. In our world, pain receives more attention than healing. When you talk about your struggles, people listen. When you talk about your progress, the world moves on. It teaches us a subtle message. Pain gets you connection. Pain gets you validation. So when you repeat stories like "I am anxious," or "I am unlucky," or "I always get hurt," you are not describing your identity. You are keeping your suffering alive. You are feeding it with language until it becomes the story you think you belong to. And the digital world makes this even harder. Algorithms study your heartbreak. They track what you watch at 2 in the morning when you feel lost. And once they know what hurts you, they feed you more of it. Not because it is good for you, but because it keeps you watching. Despair becomes content, and content becomes a loop you do not know how to escape. The Stoics saw this pattern long before technology existed. They taught that it is not the event that destroys you, but your response to it. Pain is meant to deliver a message, not become a permanent address. Letting go is not denial. It is freedom. It is choosing not to build your identity around what broke you. When you stop feeding your suffering, the energy that once sustained your wounds becomes fuel for growth. You begin to see that sadness, anxiety, and fear are temporary visitors, not lifelong companions. So here is your Stoic exercise. For the next 24 hours, do not talk about your struggles, not to others and not to yourself. When the urge rises to explain how difficult life has been, pause and breathe. Then say quietly, "This moment is workable." After that, spend 1 week collecting evidence that life is better than your fear claims it is. A small kindness, a simple joy, a brief moment of relief. Write them down and let them remind you that suffering is not your entire story. You existed before your pain. You will exist long after it fades. Stop feeding what is trying to die inside you and give your attention to the part of you that is ready to live. There is a kind of sadness many people carry, but rarely name. It does not come from a breakup or a loss you can point to. It comes from the quiet realization that there was a version of you who never had the chance to exist. A you who dreamed freely before responsibility tightened around your life. a you who believed in possibility before the world convinced you to be practical. And even though no one talks about it, your soul remembers what it lost. We often mistake this feeling for depression or fatigue, but the truth is much deeper. It is grief. Not grief for someone who died, but grief for the person you never became. Society praises maturity and stability, but it never asks what you had to bury in order to appear strong. It never asks which dreams you laid to rest so you could be reliable. It never asks which parts of you went silent so you could fit into the shape others needed. When grief is ignored, it does not disappear. It slips beneath the surface and becomes numbness. It becomes the scrolling late at night, the distraction you chase to avoid silence, the irritation you cannot explain, the feeling that life lost its color even though nothing is technically wrong. It is the ghost of an unlived future pulling at your sleeve, whispering, "Remember me." The Stoics understood this kind of sorrow. They taught that grief is not weakness. It is evidence that something inside you still values meaning. It is the inner signal that a chapter ended without closure. Real growth does not come from pretending you never had dreams. It comes from honoring them, learning from them, and carrying their light into the person you are becoming. So here is your Stoic practice. Tonight, write a eulogy for the version of you that did not survive. Give them a name. Describe what they hoped for. Describe the things they never got to try. Thank them for carrying you through the years when you did not know better. Then release them. You can fold the paper, burn it, or simply let it rest somewhere safe. This is not a ritual of defeat. It is a ritual of liberation. Because once grief is acknowledged, it transforms. It stops haunting and starts guiding. It asks a simple but powerful question. What now? Now that you have faced what was lost, what will you build from here? What new meaning will you create? What part of you is ready to return? When you let grief refine you instead of define you, something remarkable happens. You feel urgency again. You feel possibility again. You feel the beginning of a life that is honest, not inherited. You cannot change the life you did not live, but you can honor it by living the one in front of you with full presence and full courage. There is a silent trap many people fall into without ever realizing it. It is the trap of potential. On the surface, potential sounds noble. It sounds inspiring. It sounds like a promise of who you could become someday. But if you look closely, potential is also a place where you can hide. It protects you from the risk of trying. It shields you from being seen. As long as your best ideas stay inside your mind, no one can judge them, no one can challenge them, and no one can expose the fear that lives beneath them. This is why so many people cling to potential like it is a treasure. They say things like, "If I really tried, I would be great," or "I could do that if I had time," or "One day I will start." These sentences feel safe because they allow you to hold on to a fantasy of excellence without facing the reality of effort. The Stoics called this self-deception. It is pride dressed as humility. It is the ego avoiding exposure by pretending to wait for the perfect moment. Epictetus taught a simple rule. First, say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. But most people never move past the first part. They spend years defining who they might be. They imagine the book they could write, or the business they could build, or the strength they could develop. Yet nothing changes because imagining feels easier than acting. Over time, the weight of inaction grows heavier. What was once a dream becomes guilt. What was once ambition becomes self-resentment. You start to feel this quiet pressure inside you, not because you failed, but because you never tried. The more you delay action, the louder your doubts become. Each day you wait adds another layer of hesitation. Waiting for the right moment becomes another way of waiting for permission. But permission will never arrive. At some point, you have to choose movement even when you feel unprepared. Courage, in the Stoic sense, is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act while fear is present. Something powerful happens the moment you take that first imperfect step. Fear begins to lose its grip. Action turns fear into focus. Results, even small ones, silence the anxious stories your mind creates. The world meets you halfway when you finally show up. So here is your Stoic challenge. Do something you feel unready for. Write the first page and share it. Record the imperfect video. Sign up for the class you keep researching. Do it badly if you must, but do it publicly. Let the discomfort remind you that you are alive. Progress has always mattered more than perfection. You do not honor your potential by protecting it. You honor it by using it. The cage was never your talent. The cage was hesitation, and you are strong enough to walk out of it. There is a quiet belief many of us carry without questioning it. It is the belief that we must wait. Wait for the right moment. Wait for someone to approve our choices. Wait for a sign that tells us it is finally safe to begin our real life. This habit starts early. As children, we were taught to raise our hands, to wait for our turn, to ask before speaking or exploring. And even though we grow up, the conditioning stays. By the time we reach adulthood, silence feels like rejection instead of freedom. When no one gives us permission, we assume it means stop, not start. But the truth is far more empowering. No one is coming to hand you the life you want. Not a partner, not a parent, not a boss, not the universe. The people you admire, the ones who built something meaningful, did not wait for a green light. They took permission. They acted before they felt ready. They stepped into the unknown with shaking hands and uncertain steps. And by moving, they became ready. Readiness was the result, not the requirement. Every day you hesitate, you add another invisible lock to the door of your own life. You start to believe that courage belongs to other people, to the confident or the gifted. But Stoicism teaches something very different. The Stoics believed that virtue defines the right moment, not approval. If an action aligns with wisdom, courage, justice, or temperance, then it is the right moment to act. You do not need applause. You need integrity. So here is your Stoic practice. Take a sheet of paper and write down every action you have been delaying. It might be a conversation, a project, a move, a dream you keep pushing aside. Next to each one, write the name of the person whose permission you think you are waiting for. It might be a parent who no longer influences your life. It might be a colleague. It might be a vague idea of authority. Then write the truth. This person is not coming, and they do not need to. When you see it clearly, something shifts. The safety net of waiting disappears, but so does the illusion that you were powerless. You begin to understand that self-authorization is freedom. It is the moment you stop living on borrowed courage and start building your own. The world does not need more people waiting for a sign. It needs people who decide to begin. You already have the permission you have been searching for. It has always been yours. There is a truth many people feel, but rarely have the courage to say out loud. You are not depressed. You are domesticated. You wake up each morning to an alarm that slices through whatever dream once held you. Before your feet touch the floor, you reach for a glowing screen that floods your mind with other people's lives, other people's demands, other people's expectations. You scroll, compare, react, and perform before you have taken your first intentional breath. And somewhere along the way, you mistake this routine for responsibility. But what if it is not responsibility? What if it is captivity? We live in a world that praises productivity but often rewards obedience. You are trained to wake when a clock instructs you, to eat when a schedule tells you, to work until exhaustion becomes normal. You learn to smile when your spirit feels tired and to move through your day as if your own instincts cannot be trusted. Over time, the wild parts of you begin to fade. Curiosity becomes inconvenience. Instinct becomes something to suppress. The natural rhythm inside you becomes drowned out by tasks and notifications, and so you feel misaligned. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you are trying to function in an environment that was never designed for your well-being. The ancient Stoics understood this long before modern society existed. To them, living well meant living in harmony with your true nature. Not the nature of forests and mountains, but the nature of your inner self. The part of you that knows when you need rest, when you need silence, when you need meaning. Diogenes lived his entire philosophy through this truth. When Alexander the Great offered him anything he desired, he simply said, "Stand out of my sunlight." He was not rejecting comfort. He was rejecting dependence. He refused to let society's definition of success become his cage. And maybe that is what you are feeling too. You are not lazy. You are exhausted from performing a version of yourself that matches what everyone else expects. The ache inside you is not failure. It is your wild self suffocating under good manners and perfectly timed routines. So here is your Stoic challenge. Reclaim one corner of your day. Do something impractical, something unapproved, something that belongs only to you. Sit quietly without reaching for your phone. Take a walk without a destination. Eat when your body is hungry, not when the clock strikes 12. Let your inner rhythm rise again. Because depression is not always a disease. Sometimes it is rebellion. Sometimes it is your soul refusing to live in captivity any longer. There is a moment each morning that most people never notice, yet it quietly determines the kind of day they are about to live. It lasts only 3 seconds, that fragile space between dreaming and remembering. Before your mind starts collecting old worries, before your identity snaps back into place, before yesterday's story settles onto your shoulders again. In that short pause, you are free. You are untouched by expectation, history, or fear. You are awareness, choosing rather than reacting. But the brain does not like freedom. It prefers what it already knows, even if what it knows has been hurting you for years. It chooses familiar stress over unfamiliar peace, because familiarity feels safer than possibility. So the moment you wake up, your mind rushes to rebuild the person you were yesterday. The same thoughts, the same patterns, the same emotional script. Routine becomes a kind of hypnosis. Identity becomes repetition. And if you do not interrupt it, the day simply becomes a sequel to the life you no longer want. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology. They practiced premeditatio, the preparation of the mind before the world intruded. They believed direction must come before emotion, intention before habit. So they greeted the morning with a question. Not what do I have to do today, but who do I want to be today? That single question breaks the spell. When you claim those 3 seconds, everything shifts. You begin the day consciously instead of automatically. You choose your attitude instead of inheriting it from yesterday. And the choices do not need to be dramatic. They can be simple and small because micro-choices are what actually shape your day. You delay checking your phone. You drink water before caffeine. You speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism. You step into the morning instead of collapsing into it. And just as the morning needs a pause, the evening needs a reflection. Before you sleep, take 3 minutes to look back at your day. Notice how many moments were lived with intention and how many were lived on autopilot. Do not judge yourself. Simply notice. Awareness itself is a form of transformation. Every time you observe your choices, you reclaim a piece of your identity from unconscious habit. 3 seconds in the morning, 3 minutes at night. These small rituals rebuild you from the inside out. They reconnect you with the person you want to become, not the person your habits have trained you to be. Discipline, in the Stoic sense, is not punishment. It is remembering who you are before the world tells you who to be. So tomorrow morning, when that silent moment appears between sleep and waking, do not rush past it. That is the doorway to your new life. Guard it, step through it, and choose again. When you look back at your life, the moments that changed you were never the perfect ones. They were the moments when you chose to act, even though you felt uncertain. Transformation has never belonged to the people waiting for ideal conditions. It belongs to those who show up, who try again, who take one honest step forward even when the path ahead feels unclear. The Stoics knew this. They believed that your life is shaped not by the size of your challenges, but by the choices you make in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Motivation rises and falls like weather. Some days you feel powerful. Other days you feel lost. But character is built in the choices you repeat, the habits you protect, the virtues you practice even when no one praises you for them. Wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice are not lofty ideals. They are daily actions. They are the way you speak to yourself in the morning. They are the way you respond to frustration. They are the way you treat the people closest to you when you are tired. These small decisions gradually carve the person you become. At some point, you have to realize that the distance between the life you have and the life you want is not measured in miles. It is measured in choices. It is measured in the moment you decide to stop postponing your future. It is measured in the moment you stop performing and start living in alignment with what you know is true. So as we close this journey, let this be your declaration. Not a slogan, not a hopeful intention, but a promise to yourself. Today, I choose to live, not just exist. And tomorrow, when the world tries to pull you back into the old story, return to that choice. Protect it. Practice it. Let it become the compass that shapes the rest of your life. You are ready to live fully. The first step is already in front of you. If this video helped you, let it echo. Like, share, subscribe Stoic Power Lab for more insights and keep building your inner power.